grid could make so much efficiency that we need 20 to 30% less generation. That's a way to cut the pollution.
Sure, you're exactly right. But why I say this is hard work is that the two of the biggest sets of industries in the country, one of them, of course, is the oil industry. So as I learned in the ethanol business, if you're going against oil, it's not like being Michael Dell and Bill Gates going against slide rules. K&E slide rule had no substantial support in the United States Congress. Oil owns many state legislatures and much of the United States Congress because there's no better way to get money than to dig it out of the ground and have it flow on its own accord. I know, because I'm in the oil business. I like it. But the thing is, when you're trying to shift the country, you've got to go against existing businesses and take those resources and move them into something else. So the oil industry has to transform itself into something else. Utilities are extremely powerful, but I hear utilities arguing against net metering, especially out in California. Why are they worried about it? Because they can't figure out the funding mechanism for the grid. Okay, these are problems that government should solve. It won't solve them, though, unless you, the voters and workers, have government solve it. So I agree with all the concerns you're citing, but we need leadership. This country didn't spring up out of the earth by itself. It was men and women just like you all in this room who shaped this country. You set the policies in place. You made a civilization out of the wilderness. And government has to take us forward to the next step. I guess I got time for one more.
Sure.
If you've got time for me.
Yeah, Charles Shapiro from the World Affairs Council. How do you square the political issue here? They're saying government needs to do this, government needs to do that. We elect the government. People who run on the platform that you're suggesting have not been successful.
I'm not running.
Yeah. So how do we get there? I mean, how do you scale this up? How do you convince people? How do we get there?
It's the challenge of democracy. There's a great physicist named Murray Gell-Mann who wrote a book in the 1990s called The Quark and the Jaguar. He said the smallest thing in civilization was the quark. It was 10 to the minus 80th meters in size. And if you go up from the quark, you go up in increasing size, but levels of complexity are also present. There are more molecules in the human body than there are stars in all the galaxies that we can see. The human body is a very complex organism. And when you then put on top of that families, tribes, clans, and then on top of that, nations and the United Nations and the whole world of ideas, you end up, or is what I guess Google would tell me is data, big data, you end up with incredible complexity. And there's no assurance that mankind will survive that complexity. It's not guaranteed. It's only up to us. So for 35 years in the American government, we've chuckled in the American political economy, we've chuckled at Ronald Reagan's statements and jokes saying, we met the government, and the worst thing that can happen to you is the government can say, I'm here to help you. And this kind of joke. And it worked well because in some places, and often, government regulation is really annoying. I don't like it in the investment banking business. I'm an investment banker and I'm regulated and it's a pain in the neck. Wish it wasn't there. So it's easy to sort of, over a beer in a bar, say, get government off my back. But when you really think about it, you've got to have intelligent government. I mean, we put it there, we created it, and it works for us. So this is a challenge that we have in the American communications system today. And I'm just defining your question. But there is no answer to it that's easy. The way human systems typically solve a problem like this is to wait for failure. In the 1920s, after Woodrow Wilson passed away, the United States said, thank God he's gone. I mean, Woodrow Wilson became a dictator during World War I. Nobody here remembers that, but go back and read the history books. First, he didn't want us to go to war. Then he did. I mean, he took over the railroads. He took over management. He took over labor unions. He even put a throttle on the press. People had German names, changed their names. I'm sorry. But I mean, it was, there were people lynched for speaking German in the streets in 1917, 1918. He created a war fever. And he passed away, and people said, thank God he's gone. And so the economy went wild. We didn't regulate the market. We didn't regulate the stock market or capital markets. We ended up in a depression. Roosevelt came back in. He put in a lot of Wilson's ideas and some other ideas. He didn't quite get Medicare in. He did get Social Security in. And some of you may remember that back in the 1950s, we had a 91% marginal tax rate in this country. Kennedy got a lot of credit for cutting the tax rate to 70%. You'd call them socialists if they ever suggested something like that today in America. So times change, and we gave up some of those protections, and we made a lot of political hay by arguing against them. But those protections pulled us out of World War, pulled us out of the Depression, got us through World War II, and put us on the path of the greatest economic expansion this country had ever seen in the 1950s. When people say they want to take the country back and take it back to the 1950s, they don't realize what it was that got us there. So where we're headed now is uncertain, but we know this, that human ingenuity is unlimited. And if we don't channel that ingenuity in the right directions, we'll have another breakdown. And if that's what it takes to educate the American people, then that's democracy. Hope it doesn't take that. But you all in this room know the truth. So please, you must do your part in helping shape the public policies that will make this a great country and help us do our part in the world for our children and grandchildren. Because if it's business as usual, in 60 years in America, I promise you, it will not be business as usual. Thank you very much. It's been great to be with you. Thank you.